Welcome back to Inside the AHSAA Weekly. I'm your host, Luke Robinson. Of course, we talk all things AHSAA here on Inside the AHSAA Weekly. And what better place to start this week and this time of year than with basketball? And to do that, we bring in the prep sports editor from AL.com. That's Mr. Josh Bean. Josh, how you doing today?
Doing great. Good to be with you guys.
Thanks so much for being with us. Let's talk a little bit about basketball. Has there been anything so far that's been a shocking upset in the playoffs?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're still at that time now where we've got sub-regional games. You know, the regional tournaments begin on Thursday. And so, I kind of joke that this is a time of year when, you eliminate the bad teams. Now, yes, there are some times where you have some good teams who get in a very competitive area and they don't advance. I think a good example this year is Spain Park in the Birmingham area. They were in an area with Mountain Brook and Huffman. Jamal Johnson, the Memphis signee, was on that team. And, they beat Mountain Brook and Huffman both the first two times they played those two teams. But then they lost in the first round of the area tournament to Huffman, which ended up winning that area tournament, beating Mountain Brook. So, that's a little bit of a surprise, but you knew somebody was going to get knocked out there. It's the same way, down there with that three-team area with Chelsea, Helena, and Pelham down in Shelby County in 6A. You knew somebody who was really good wasn't gonna advance. So you have a few of those, but for the most part, so far, no big, huge upsets yet.
What about storylines maybe here coming up in the next couple of weeks? Do you think everybody's watching Jon Peddie the most? Is it something on the girls' side, maybe Lauderdale County, somebody like that?
Yeah, I think there are some really interesting ones. You brought up Jon Peddie. He is the reigning Mr. Basketball. He won it as a junior, and he plays there at Mae Jemison in Huntsville. And yes, it's the first year for the school. It's a brand new school there. But most of those players and most of their students were zoned to go to J.O. Johnson. So last year, Jon Peddie led J.O. Johnson to a basketball state championship, and it's in the school's last year of existence. We'll see if he can do the same thing this year in the first year of the new Mae Jemison. So I think that's a storyline to follow. You mentioned the Lauderdale County girls. I think they've won 5 consecutive 3A girls titles. They'll try to keep that streak going. Also from Northwest Alabama, you've got the Deshler girls in 4A. They're the defending champ, but they're undefeated. They're trying to do what we saw LaFleur do last year, which is win a state championship and finish an undefeated season. So I think those are 3 interesting, compelling storylines that it'll be interesting to see what happens. And, we've got this class, we've got a bunch of really good individual players. At Pelham, you've got Alex Reese, the Alabama signee. At Hill County, you've got Herb Jones, another Alabama signee. So we'll see if those guys can, send themselves on into the college game with the state championship. I'll be interested to see if those guys can push their teams to that sort of an elite level this year.
Who's a sleeper individual player, either on the boys or girls side, that you think is going to do big things at the next level, but not necessarily getting the notoriety of, say, a Jon Peddie or an Alex Reese?
Yeah, I think on the girls' side, the player I really like is from Mobile, Unique Thompson, the player, the 6'2" post player from Faith Academy. She is an Auburn signee. She will be an SEC player, but on our preseason list, we had her as a number 2 player in the state, but she's still a little bit under the radar. They'll play in the South Regional, assuming they win their sub-regional game, but it looks like they'll play there, and then they have a difficult draw there. Charles Henderson is a very good team. Those 2 teams will probably meet in that regional, but Faith is a team that has shown the last 5 years or so that it can get to Birmingham. They won a state championship a few years ago. So I think that she's a player that for them to get back to Birmingham, she's going to have to play well. So she's definitely a player I really like. And, on the boys' side, Jon Peddie is the reigning Mr. Basketball, but I'm still continually impressed with Trenton Watford at Mountain Brook. He's really a 6'8" guard. He's only a sophomore, but he can do so many different things handling the ball, beating a press. He's big enough that he causes you some problems in a post-up game. So even though he's really naturally a guard, he's just a matchup problem for everybody that has to play against him. So, unfortunately, he and Peddie are in different classes, so we won't get to see them play against each other again in their high school careers. But we could get to see them both play in Birmingham if their teams, continue to advance in the tournament.
Is there a chance both of them could play in the Alabama-Mississippi AllStar Game?
Well, Trenton's only a sophomore, so eventually eventually he'll get a chance to do that. But yeah, unfortunately, the time has passed that we'll be able to see those two guys play on the same court at the same time.
Well, Josh,
maybe until they get to college, who knows where Trenton will eventually end up.
Well, Josh, it's not an AHSAA segment if we don't talk some football. Signing day just really about a week and a half ago. Was there anything out of signing day that surprised you? I know Jatarvius Whitlow signing with Auburn, that caught a lot of people off guard.
Yeah, in this day and age, you get to signing day and we don't have that many surprises. But this year we did have a couple. Jatarvius Whitlow was a guy that I think he was really hoping he would get an Auburn offer, but it didn't seem like it would materialize. It did on signing day, and he signed with the Tigers. He's an intriguing player, small school guy who did everything for his high school team. He played quarterback, he kicked off, he returned kicks. He truly never left the field in a meaningful moment. So, and on the college level, he'll concentrate on one position and try to perfect that. I think that'll be interesting to follow. In the northern part of the state, we had Jalen Adams, the Gatorade Player of the Year, the Parade All-American, who was a guy who really didn't get any SEC attention. He's a running back receiver who's about 5'8", 185 pounds. He announced on signing day at his high school that he was going to Troy, and then later, but never faxed his letter of intent. Later in the day, changed his mind and signed with Southern Miss. So that was a strange one, just because you so rarely see a guy make an announcement and then change his mind. If he had committed to Troy in June and then at some point changed, it would have been a little different. But that was something we didn't expect, and it was an interesting story on signing day. We also had Zach Bird, the tight end from Stanhope Elmore, who's been for months had been committed to Florida. Says he's still going to Florida, but didn't sign on signing day. That was another surprise.
Well, Josh, thanks again so much for being with us on Inside the AHSAA Weekly. We hope to have you on again soon, and keep up the good work, buddy.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on.
That was Josh Bean from AL.com on Inside the AHSAA Weekly. We appreciate him. He's on a lot of our different programming and does a fantastic job. Check him out, AL.com. Go to the high school sports section. Josh Bean's all over it. Thanks so much for being with us on Inside the AHSAA Weekly. We'll see you again next time.